Coming up, want to see the exact process that we use to help 9 of our clients get featured by Apple? Well, today we're going to share the exact timeline that you need to follow to hopefully land an Apple feature. Stay tuned. What is up, App Nation? It is Steve P. Young, cool as the other side of the pillow. No, I don't know. I don't know why I'm doing that. What is up? Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, I want to hit 1,000 before the end of the summer. So subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please do that so that I can impress my wife and say, look, I got 1,000 followers on YouTube. Check it out, baby. You got some hot stuff as a husband. All right, today I want to talk about the process that we follow when we're trying to help clients get featured by Apple. And all that changes, so know that we're recording this. Things may change by the time you're watching this in a few months, but this is the exact timeline that I think will stay for a long time. As long as Apple doesn't change anything, this is the timeline that you need to follow, all right? So first and foremost, the question that I get asked a lot is, hey Steve, I've got an app update. Can I get featured from Apple? If it's a game, I would say it's generally harder to get featured for an app update, for a game update. So that unless it's very significant, it's going to be hard. If you're not a game, then it becomes a little bit easier, because what I've seen is for games, Apple generally likes to feature new games, and then for apps that are non-games, anything related to productivity and all that, it's a little bit easier. Now the downside is there's less apps, there's less non-games being featured in the top row if you look at the App Store. So it's already harder as it is. There's only 3 that show up every day. And then there's obviously a lot more games that are being featured by Apple, okay? The other thing that you want to do is, if you are doing a soft launch, definitely do that. As I'm talking to bigger game studios, I'm asking them a lot of different questions on what they do that's different from indies. And so one of the big things is soft launch. They do a massive soft launch. They have a little bit of budget, so they spend some money acquiring users for their soft launch to really get the retention right, the monetization right, the A/B testing of the icons and screenshots, so that when they're ready to launch worldwide, which includes the US, then they have all those variables figured out. So I would recommend that you do that if you do have a game or even a non-game, just to do a small soft launch to get some data in there, because you're going to do that, use all your soft launch metrics in your Apple pitch. Okay, so here's what I like to do. Here's the timeline. Dun, 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 dun. 3 weeks before. Generally, Apple wants to receive a pitch 2 weeks before you launch, but I like to do 3 because it gives me the flexibility to weave and figure out like what the next process is going to be. Give me ample time. Now, what I like to do, ideally what you want to do is have your app approved, okay? Because think about the big guys, right? They're getting featured all the time. They're doing the soft launch. They say, okay, this is our real version that we're going to go out with. They're already probably talking to Apple. They've got everything settled, right? So act like you're a bigger player. Have your app approved. That's what I did for one of my apps that we published last year that was featured in China. And we got 30,000 downloads out of this. And it was because I pitched them after it was approved. So in my pitch, I could then say, hey, Apple, we're approved already. This date's not going to change. And if you've got a marketing budget, the bigger guys have big marketing budget that they're going to throw, let them know about that too. So definitely pitch them 3 weeks before. I know we shared this in the past about finding the right App Store manager for your category. I'm shying away from doing that a lot more recently because they're getting inundated with pitches. So I would just say pitch appstorepromotion@apple.com, appstorepromotion@apple.com. That's their generic email address. It does work. We helped the client get featured in March using that email address. So it does work. So just make sure that you pitch them 3 weeks before. Here's what you want to include in your pitch. Definitely your app ID. Video helps. Any screenshots you want to provide, definitely do that. And then here, let me pull up my notes just to make sure I've got everything covered. Highlight any credentials. So whether it's social proof on your part, Like for me, when I pitched Apple, I said, hey, I've interviewed over 400 app developers and I was studying along the way and now I'm finally ready to release my app, blah, blah, blah. So it shows a little bit of social proof. And if you're an ex-Apple engineer or ex-Netflix, ex-Facebook, whatever that is, that tends to help a little bit too. And obviously use any of your soft launch metrics that you've been able to attain. Or if you've been featured in the past, maybe through a publisher, maybe mention that as well. And the last thing that's very critical, actually I almost forgot, is the launch date, right? Because that's why I like getting it approved before I pitch Apple, because then I can say this launch date is not changing because I'm approved. There's nothing stopping me from launching on this particular date. And all the marketing channels and the budgets that we have, like if you think about the big guys, right? They're all gearing up for this launch date. They all plan different campaigns for this launch date. So act like one of the bigger guys, okay? 3 weeks before, 2 weeks before, actually before I moved to 2 weeks before, you wanna track your emails too, okay? I use bananatag.com, or Sidekick is another one by HubSpot, but you wanna track your emails just to see if Apple opens whatever subject line you decide to choose, right? You wanna see that. Because if they like your app, they're gonna follow up and say, hey, Steve, or hey, you, thanks for the app. Can you fill out this roadmap to tell us a little bit more about your app? So track it, because if you do track it 2 weeks before your app is about to launch, and you could probably do this a little bit before 2 weeks if you wanna give yourself more time, but you can follow up with Apple either with a new subject line if they didn't open the first email. That's why it's important that you track it. If they didn't open the first email, use a different subject line, or if they did open it, they didn't respond, then you can say, hey, Apple, follow up with your original email and say, hey, Apple, I'm just following up. I'm ready for the roadmap. If you think it's, worth seeing more, I'm ready for the roadmap to fill it out. Kind of shows Apple that you understand the process. So you ask for that roadmap, okay? Lastly, I would say, again, if you're a game, it's a lot harder to get featured post-launch, but we did help one of our clients get featured. This was way early in the days, and I won't even take full credit for this, but ended up getting featured post-launch because we hit number 2 under paid apps. And so if you have a really big launch, just things take off and it goes viral. I have seen another game get featured as sort of, it's been in existence. It was like 2 weeks old or 3 weeks old, which in app terms is kind of old, but that was featured by Apple because the game went viral. So if you do get viral or get featured on Product Hunt or have some social proof with some press, then I would follow up post-launch with Apple with any of that, the major accomplishments from your launch, all right? So follow up with them because you never know, right? Again, the last thing I want to end with is this is not a viable strategy, meaning this is not a long-term strategy. I get clients who say, look, I want the Apple feature and that's it. Like that's not, you're like buying a lottery ticket, okay? Like that's not a strategy where I would depend my life upon it. It does help because it's sort of a no-brainer that if you do get featured by Apple, it's a lot of downloads and the cachet, it's kind of cool to say I've been featured by Apple. You're gonna get a ton of downloads for free. So it does certainly help and doesn't hurt to pitch them for your launch, but it's very hard and I would not completely rely on an Apple feature for the life of my app, right? I know certain people will launch a game, if it doesn't get featured, take it down, maybe find it through a publisher and things like that. People do this all the time, but just be careful that you're just not reliant on this one strategy that is very difficult, especially if you have no relationships as the lifeblood of your downloads, all right? So if you guys wanna learn more and see the exact pitch that I use for my app, this is my app, and the template that we like to use when we're pitching Apple, well, use the link below. And if you're watching this on YouTube, follow the links below and go download this template. I'm giving this away for free. This is the email that I sent to Apple that got featured. This is one of my games. And then you can also get a template that I like to use when I'm putting a pitch together. So you can see how I like to craft subject lines, what's to include in the email, and then like little lines of social proof that I like to use. So all that is available to you for absolutely free in exchange for an email address, in exchange for me to say hi to you once in a while, if you want to download that. So use the links below. If you're listening to it on the podcast, go to the blog post, click on that link and get there. So it is, actually, let's just do this. Apps. I don't edit this crap. Forget it. appmasters.co/Apple email. appmasters.co/Apple email. You'll get the free content upgrade there. All right. See you guys on the next video. Don't forget to hit subscribe so I can look cool with my wife. I stumbled upon that. Don't forget to hit subscribe so that I can look cool for my wife. See ya.